Om Gyanatimanasya Gyananjana Salakaya Shaksurum Militanyana Tasma Shri Gurube Namaha Sri Chaitanya
Manobheshtam
Manopishtam
Stapitam Yena
Bhutale
Bhutale
Swayan
Swayam
Rupa
Rupa
Kadamahyam Dadati
Tadati
Swapadantikam
Padantikam
Vandeham Sri Guru
Vandeham Shri
Sri
Guru
Yuta
Sri Yuta
Padakamalam
Padakamalam Shri
Sri
Gurun
Gurum
Vaishnavamscha
Vaishnavamscha
Rupam
Sri
Sagrajatam
Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatambitam Tam
Sanvitam Tam
Sajivam
Sajiv
Sadvaitam
Sadvaitam
Savadutam
Savadrutam
Parijana
Parijana
Sahitam
Sahitam
Krishna
Krishna
Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Devam
Devam Shri
Sri
Radha
Radha Krishna
Krishna
Padam Sahagana
Pada
Lalita Sri
Sahagalita Shri
Vishakam Vitamscha
Visakamritamsa
He Krishna Karuna
Krishna Karuna
Sindhu
Sindhu
Dinabandhu Jagatpate
Gopesha
Gopesha Gopika
Gopika
Kanta Radha
Radha
Kanta
Kanta
Namaste
Namostate
Taptakanchana
Saptakarchana
Gaurangi
Gaurangi
Radhe
Radhe
Vrindavanishware
Vrindavaneshwari
Vrishabhanu Sute
Vrishabhanu
Devi
Devi
Pranamami
Pranamami
Hari
Hari
Priye
Vanchakalpa
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa
Kripa
Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam
Patitanam
Pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo Namo
Vaishnavebhyo Namo
Namaha
Namaha
Jaya Shri Krishna
Krishna Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Prabhu
Prabhu
Nityananda
Nityananda Sri Advaita
Shri Advaita
Gadadhara
Gadadhar
Shivasadi
Srivasadi
Gaura
Gaur
Bhakta
Bhakta
Vrinda
Vrinda Hare Krishna
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna
Hare Krishna
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 Krishna Hare
Krishna Hare
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 Rama Hare
Rama Hare
Rama
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 Rama Hare
Hare Hare
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Patitanam
Sarva
Pavanebhyo
Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedhaika Satphala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnarya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada Sarva Bhagavata Prana
Prana
Srimad-Bhagavata Prabhu
Prabhu
Kaliduanto
Kalipanto
Ditaditya
Ditaditya
Shri
Shri
Krishna
Krishna
Parivartita
Parivartita
Paramananda
Paramananda
Pataya
Pathaya
Prema Varshaksharayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namastume Madeka Bando Matsangim Madguru Mamahadana Mam Nishtaraka Madbhagya Madananda Namostute Asadu Sadhu Tadayim Atini Chochatakara Hana Muncha Kadachimam Premna Ritkanta Yospuram. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O uplifter of the most fallen, please don't ever leave me. Accompanied by pure love of Krishna, please manifest yourself in my heart and in my throat. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Okay, so before we go into that, I will be beginning each lesson every day with a quick recap from the previous day. And basically how we will be doing this is that you can type on the chat box some major points from yesterday's lesson or from the previous day's lesson. And you can also share by unmuting yourself. But some points that, stood out or that you found them like relevant, you can put them on the chat box. And in this way, we get also our brains activated for today's class. Everything is like, connected in the Bhagavatam. So we can, in this way, find the flow between the lessons. So anyone can remember anything from yesterday? Okay, there is nothing outside of Krishna. Krishna is the absolute truth. Yamastami Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji, just about the absolute truth.
You're muted. Is it? 1 second.
Prabhuji,
No,
I'm
you're
not.
not muted, but I cannot hear you. Just give me a second. I don't know why I cannot hear you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay, anybody else hear me or no?
Yes, we can hear.
Oh, we can. Okay, I think this is Prabhuji's.
Now, go ahead. I can hear you now.
Yes, Prabhuji. Just talking about the same absolute truth. Krishna is the absolute truth.
Yeah.
And the 10 different examples that you gave about that.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Krishna is a person. The totality of everything is the absolute truth. Is all pervading. Krishna is the absolute truth. Slokas 1 to 3. Sambandha Avideya Amprayoyana. Okay. Vyasada spoke boldly, directly that Krishna is the absolute truth. Everything emanates from the Supreme Lord. Okay. Anything else from anybody else? We need to take principles from Srimad-Bhagavatam, applying them in our personal life. Yeah. Archana Bhakti Radha Mataji, please tell us.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Pranam and pranam to everybody. Yesterday, Prabhuji, what caught my attention was like how the Lord, the absolute truth or the Supreme Lord is the knower directly and indirectly. Because he knows he is within everything, so he knows everything directly, and he is the substance himself, and that is how also he knows. So
Nice.
that was very interesting, Prabhuji.
So what are the words, the Sanskrit words for this?
I'm not able to recollect it right now.
Swarat and Abhigyat.
So
Golokeshwari.
Swarat is he's
Yeah.
independent. Yeah, Abhignya Swarat. Yes.
Yeah. And then you have Amvayat Avitare. Amvayat Vitare. Oh, come. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Yamadya Set Yatom Vayat Itaratas Chartesu Avignat. Amvayat Icharatas Charteshu Avignat. That's indirectly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations. We should learn this verse like really sentence by sentence, word meanings. It's a long verse, but it's introductory verse to the Srimad-Bhagavatam, very important. And we can refer to this verse, you know, in our study of the Bhagavatam, understanding the topic of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Anyone else would like to contribute something?
Yes, Guruji. Hare Krishna.
Okay, go ahead.
Yesterday also, Guruji, you told us like in this material world is a temporary, and everything we see in this material world, that is real, that is not unreal, as Mayavadi says. But whatever we see with our senses, that is illusory. You gave an example that rope, when we see it in evening or in night, then it maybe seems like a snake. We may misunderstood. So that is due to our senses. So that object is real, that is not unreal. But our perception with our senses, that may appear real or unreal. That is
it is not false, it's illusory. Good. Nice. Shama Bhakti Vyasadev is inviting us to meditate on Srimad-Bhagavatam, the first verse. Okay, so now my view of this change. Okay, so we are going. Okay, Leela Manohar Prabhu, would you like to say something as well?
Yes, Bhagavatam has to change our heart. So that is be our objective of learning Bhagavatam.
Yeah, it's a very important point that as we are, how is the sound, by the way? I don't know if I distance myself, you can still hear or not?
We can hear you.
Is like this is much better? Just put the mic in the proper way.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So you see, the point is that, and now we're gonna discuss it today. So I'm gonna pause, but today that's gonna be one of the main topics about a study of Srimad. What is the purpose of Srimad-Bhagavatam? That's gonna be established in the third verse, and we'll discuss that today. So here we have in the slide like an overview of the chapter. We are still on the prelude of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, and we're moving ahead. Let's see. Oops. So yesterday at the end, I referred briefly to the additional meaning. I was explaining how there are different layers of meaning of the first canto of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. So here it is. Defining the absolute truth. This is pretty much the pattern of the what Prabhupada focuses on. Then summary of Krishna's pastimes. Krishna is the source of the Adi Ras. Meditation on Radha and Krishna, and glorification of Bhakti Yoga. Obviously, Prabhupada touches upon all these points, but the translation of in the purport, but the translation of the verse is mainly number one, defining the absolute truth. If you want to go a little deeper on the study of this Srimad-Bhagavatam, you can go into Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary, and you can find these commentaries very, very enlightening with different translation of the verse. But on this course, we have already with, Prabhupada's purpose are very rich, and it's beyond the scope of this course to go in detail into these things also. Okay, so we begin with the second verse. Okay, so it's also one of the memorization verses. Dharma Pruita Kaitavotra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam Vastavamatra Vastushivadanta Patrayum Mulanam Srimad-Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimva Parairishvara Sadyor Hidya Varudyate Trakritivi Susrushuvishtakshana. So very important verse also, and a long translation. We're going to be going, here is translation from the Srimad-Bhagavatam itself, and then we're going to read an alternative translation by Prabhupada himself in the Caitanya-caritamrta. Anybody will volunteer to read the translation? Yes, go for it, Radharaman Prabhu.
Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavad Puran propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
So these translations appears in Caitanya-caritamrta, also by Prabhupada himself. Someone else would like to read it? Shama Priya Somya, you were not here yesterday, were you?
Yes, Prabhu, I'm sorry. Actually, I had taken a holiday yesterday, so I'm here from today.
You were, sorry, what did you say? You were?
I wasn't present yesterday, Prabhu. I had some exams, so I'm just present today.
Oh, okay. So you have to catch up with that class.
Yes, Prabhu, I'm here to get the recording from Anil.
Okay. So where are you from?
I'm from Tamil Nadu.
So are you in Chennai now, or where are you?
No, it's near Madurai.
Okay, nice. Welcome to the course.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Go ahead.
Okay. The great scripture Srimad-Bhagavatam, compiled by Mahamuni Vyasadeva from our 4 original verses, describes the most elevated and kind-hearted devotees and completely rejects the cheating ways of materially motivated religiosity. It propounds the highest principle of eternal religion, which can factually mitigate the threefold miseries of a living being and award the highest benediction of full prosperity and knowledge. Those willing to hear the message of the scripture in a submissive attitude of service can at once capture the Supreme Lord in their hearts. Therefore, there is no need for any scripture other than Srimad-Bhagavatam.
Thank you. So this second verse of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, the first verse of the Srimad-Bhagavatam establishes who is the absolute truth and what are the characteristics of the absolute truth. Now, the second verse is focusing on the uniqueness of the Srimad-Bhagavatam as a scripture. And what is the uniqueness of this book? And the uniqueness of this book is that it presents the absolute truth in an undiluted way. It's presenting the highest truth without mixing it with anything else, basically. So the verse begins with the words Dharma Projita Kaitavo. Okay. Projita means completely rejecting. Okay. Kaitava, materialistic religions. Okay. And Dharma. That material, so completely rejecting any materially motivated religion, materially motivated type of faith, of duty. Now, we heard many times that the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam begins where the Bhagavad Gita ends. Can you see the connection between Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam here in this verse? Rupa Goswami, Prabhu.
Yes, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says at last, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam saranam jaja. So you surrender unto me. So Bhagavatam start with the surrender to Krishna.
Yeah, basically Krishna ends Bhagavad Gita saying, abandon all varieties of dharma. Yeah, abandon all. He describes so many dharmas in Bhagavad Gita, so many paths. And at the end of it, they say, just give it all and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. And now Bhagavatam begins at that point. That now completely rejecting all types of dharma, all other paths. And it's rejecting sakama karma. It's materially motivated, refers to sakama karma yoga, activities which are materially motivated, okay, where there is some material desire, some fruitive intention. But when the acharyas explain, when he says pra means completely, not just rejecting, but completely, he says the Bhagavatam also rejects even liberation. Not just even if you are you're free from material desires, but you still have the desire for liberation, for merging with the Supreme. That's also rejecting the Srimad-Bhagavatam. And that's where the Bhagavatam begins. And of course, the Bhagavatam is unique in many ways, and that's what we're going to describe this. What is the unique position of the Srimad-Bhagavatam? Jiva Goswami, de hecho, in Tattva Sandarbha, he establishes how the Bhagavatam is the topmost pramana, the topmost authority. Because as in Lord Chaitanya's line, Lord Chaitanya accepted the Srimad-Bhagavatam as the topmost authority. If we want to establish any philosophical point, then we refer to the Srimad-Bhagavatam as the ultimate authority. And the speciality of the Bhagavatam is that it focuses on pure bhakti, is focusing on Krishna. I mean, the Bhagavatam has got like 335 chapters, and it's all focused on not just bhakti, but pure bhakti. Okay? Even though we may find descriptions in the Srimad-Bhagavatam which may refer to other paths, everything leads always towards establishing the supremacy of pure devotional service amongst all other processes. That's the beauty of the Bhagavatam. And as we, okay, so Dharma Purita, so Dharma, religiosity, Kaitavo, fruitive, cheating, and Proita is completely rejected. So religiosity in the shape of fruitive work is directly a method of gross sense gratification, whereas the process of culture and spiritual knowledge with a view to becoming one with the absolute is a method of subtle sense gratification. So it is, because we have been, some of us, we came to the path of back to, to the Vedic path through Prabhupada, and Prabhupada directly, gave us this, the highest, right from the beginning in the Bhagavad Gita, even when Prabhupada is, translating or commenting on purports that are talking about, karma yoga, or sakama karma yoga, niskama karma yoga. Prabhupada always translates karma yoga as bhakti yoga, right? And when, and Krishna is always like the supreme personality of Godhead. So we, in one sense, by Prabhupada's mercy, we have been, like many of us at least, trained from the very beginning that this is the actual path, the actual, process. But if we study the Vedas, in the Vedas, you find many, many different paths, many different types of, goals, of desires, that's why, in the next verse, we're going to see that, the Vedas is compared to like a desire tree. So the Bhagavatam is rejecting all that and is giving us the highest, which is basically, Bhagavad Dharma. So all such pretentious religiosity based on gross or subtle sense gratification is completely rejected in the process of Bhagavad Dharma, or the transcendental religion that is the eternal function of the living being. Now, the thing is that in the previous verse, if you remember, Sambandha Jnana has been established. Rupa Goswami, you have your camera covered by something. We just see like a dark cloud there. So in the previous verse, Sambandha Jnana is being established as, and we saw that, we are parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. And, our eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord is that of service. We have an eternal relationship with the Lord, and that eternal relationship with the Lord is a relationship of service. Basically our dharma, our occupation, we may have so many different types of occupations, so many types of obligations in life, but there is one which is common to all living beings, which is that we our paradharma, our supreme dharma, is that of service to the Supreme Lord. When we act according to that capacity, we are actually coming in touch with the reality. If we devoid of that, if we just act according to any other type of material dharma, neglecting that, then is the fruit of that is meaningless. Like we'll see later on in the Bhagavatam, dharmasvanustita punsam visvakshena katasuyat notpadayi yadi ratim shama eva hikevalam. That any occupational engagement, which does not provoke an attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead, is only useless labor. If it does, even if it's perfectly performed, if it does not bring us closer to Krishna and to service of Krishna, it is shama eva hi kevalam. It's just a waste of time. So the Bhagavatam is presenting that in a very undiluted form. So we have gross sense gratification, karma, and subtle sense gratification, which is jnana. So both karma yoga, jnana yoga, both rejected. This book, right from the beginning, remember that these first verses are the Mangala Charana of the book. So in the first verse, we already, obeisances were expressed. Kaviraj Goswami in the Srila Kaviraj Das Goswami in Caitanya-caritamrta explains that there are three elements of a Mangala Charana, right? You remember this from the Nectar of Devotion? Anyone remembers what the three elements are? Anyone? Ananda Vardhana Prabhu, go for it.
First offering obeisances, then benediction, and the third one I forgot.
Okay, Sanskrit. Anyone remember the Sanskrit? Good. It's namaskar, okay? Obeisances, ashirvad, blessings, and vastu nirdesh, okay? Which is the topic. What is the topic of the book? So in the first verse, obeisances have been already offered, and what is the topic is being established, right? Now the blessings is given in this verse. You know, what are the blessings? That the Lord can be captured, right? By the hearing, submissive hearing of this verse. But Jiva Goswami, he gives, there are different components of Mangalacharana. There is not only these three. You know, Jiva Goswami also refers that at the beginning of the book, or at least, you know, the beginning of the book is also established whom the book is intended for. Okay, so that's what we're gonna see here also. Dharma Puritai Katravo, what is it? Dharma Puritai Katravo, Cha. I can't believe it.
Paramo
Nirmat Satam. Dharma Puritai Katravo Tra. That's it. I was missing the syllable. Dharma Puritai Katravo Atra. Atra means here. Okay. Here, Dharma Purita Kaitavo is rejected. All other dharmas. Nirmat Sananan Satam. Vedyam Vastavan Atra. Vastu Shivadan Tapa Trayom Mulanam. Srimad-Bhagavate Mahamuni Krita Kimva Parayishvara. Sadyor Varudrate Atra. Okay, again. Kritivi Susrusuvistakshanat. So in this book, 3 times. And, you know, we're going to see what how, you know, this is being emphasized. But the main point up until now is that in this book, all other types of material religiosity are rejected. Clear up until this point, right? So what is it that, okay. So what are the distinctions between real and pretentious religion? And this is again, you know, because, you know, I remember years ago, my father came to you know, we were in Sankirtan, to the Sankirtan house, and my guru was giving a class, and at the end of the class, my father said, well, this is the same as Christianity. You know, my father is a Roman Catholic. And then my guru said to him, well, why don't you become a Hare Krishna then? You know, if it's the same. But the thing is that it is not the same. It is the same in certain ways, but in which way it is not the same. So we have to establish that distinction. You know? So what is the difference between, and I'm not just talking about Christianity, I'm just talking about real religion and pretentious religion. Anyone would like to comment? You can also type on the chat box, or you can, you know, like speak. Okay, Srinarayan Prabhu.
One thing that quickly comes into my mind immediately is following the scriptures in terms of the disciplic succession and the so-called the next level of generation gurus have their own mental concoctinations. So these are the 2 points that come to mind quickly.
Anyone would like to comment on that? On Srinarayan's points? Chatura Mataji?
The pretentious religions, they based on the sense gratification. So that is the basic distinction.
Pretty much. That's it. One of them is focusing on my selfish desires, either desires for sense enjoyment or desires for liberation. And the other one is, and real religion is about uncovering the nature of the soul. Real religion is about uncovering the nature of the soul. Sadhana Bhakti is meant to bring out our true nature as the eternal servants of Krishna. And within our sadhana practices, we have, practices that are more powerful, more potent, right? And how is it measured they are more potent? Because they are more effective in uncovering our real nature as the servants of Krishna. Pretentious religion doesn't do that. Pretentious religion is about, fulfilling our desires. Okay. So here we have a few comments. It says real religion. Okay, let's see. Very good. Many comments. Okay. Real religion is something which can be changed. Okay. Yeah. Like Prabhupada explains about faith. Faith can change, but the actual nature of the soul is that which cannot be changed. Like the dharma of sugar is sweetness. If you take it away, it's not sugar anymore. So similarly, the dharma of the soul is to serve Krishna. The dharma of the Srimad-Bhagavatam is that gives love of God. Okay, we're gonna see it in this verse, in fact. Real religion teaches who is actual God and love of Godhead. Yes, it teaches us how to love God. Real religion is pertaining to the soul. Yeah, to the activities of the soul. Okay. In many religions, so many rituals are being followed without much knowledge why they're being carried out. Yeah. And even in our own practice of Krishna consciousness, we may be doing things without knowing why we're doing them in a ritualistic, mechanic way. So this is very refreshing for us that we should, understand what is the purpose of and as we are progressing in Krishna consciousness, this objective becomes more and more refined. We become a lot more clearer about our goal, which is what? What is the goal? Someone, you can tell us, I unmuted you, said, what is the actual goal of Krishna consciousness? We say it every day, right? When reciting the offenses. The real goal is what? Sri Narayan, what is the real goal?
As you mentioned, what we understand from Bhagavatam thing is from our Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavad classes, our real goal, as you mentioned, is understand who we are, what is the relationship between us and the Supreme Lord, and try to establish the devotion service.
Okay, so you see, you're giving me an understanding, and that's correct, you see? But as we are making progress, we are advancing Krishna consciousness, we begin to, actually my goal is to develop love, Krishna, prema pumartu maham. And as making more my goal is to develop a personal relationship with Krishna. My goal is to develop a personal relationship with Krishna in Vrindavan. My goal is developing a personal relationship with Krishna in this particular rasa. It becomes more and more as we make in progress, because things become more, more revealed. The truth. We're coming closer to the truth. Okay. Real religion is connecting with God for loving and serving God. Yeah. Pretentious religion based on bodily concepts of life. Correct. They don't follow the scriptural injunctions. Well, they do follow scriptural injunctions. That's the point. And that's the point about, the necessity of the Bhagavatam to be written by Srila Vyasadeva. There's so many scriptural injunctions, they lead us in the wrong direction. I mean, you find, I was mentioning yesterday, Hindu society, so many different gods for so many different objectives. Find a good husband, find good health, you worship, Surya, you worship, Durga, you worship, all these different, but the actual purpose of religion is covered. Even us coming from non-Vedic, from the Hebraic traditions, we didn't have a clear understanding about what's the purpose of religion. More or less the purpose of religion was to become a good man, a good person, and go to heaven at the end, be morally correct, but developing a relationship with God, that wasn't there that wasn't on the script, So this is what the Bhagavatam is gonna teach us. That's what the Bhagavatam makes it, because it's taking us is delivering us the absolute truth. Bhagavatam is establishing who is the absolute truth and what is the topmost process by which we can realize the absolute truth, which is bhakti. And why is that? Because it helps us to realize that relationship with the Lord. To serve the Lord with love and devotion. Real religion is not about sinning and doing sins on the name of religion. That's for sure. Okay. Just like really low level. Pretentious religion is done just to make a show without aim of feelings. Yeah, but even you see, when you word the word pretentious, because this is what is being here referring as Kaitava Dharma, right? That even within how can we stop that pretense? Because do we have pretense? Is a pretense? Do we still hold some pretense or pretentious mentality in our practices in Krishna consciousness? Honestly. Are you or me, are you feel that you're pretentious in your practices? Mityachara sa uchyate. Mityachara is false. False is like an actor, like we try to show up like we're very good devotees, but secretly we're still, hanging on to some material expectation, hoping that, Krishna will fulfill my material desires, that I will, whatever it is, it may manifest in different ways. And, we shouldn't be, we should be in one sense ashamed about it, but we should not be surprised, because we've been in the material world for millions of births, cannot expect that all of a sudden we're going to just, get rid of all those things. The point is that it's good to be able to see it so that we can actually correct it. Yeah. Because if you don't see it and you pretend that it's not there, you're like sweeping around the carpet, that those desires, then it's not necessarily that they go away. And we have to correct those tendencies. Okay. So a few devotees wrote yes. I guess the other ones, they're pure. So in which way we can, this pretentious kind of mentality manifest, not in us, but maybe you can see it in others also. How do you see that? Yeah, of course, in some of the devotional aspects, but for example, Rupa Goswami Prabhu.
So many times we have this labha, puja, pratishtha, desires. Subtle, it may be subtle desires, but always comparative with others, that he is getting more adoration. So we want to also, in devotional service also, we want to get some kind of benefit, subtle benefit.
Yeah, the other devotees are right in the same thing. The object is not the object is no longer to please Krishna. Right? Can you mute yourself? Yeah, the object is no longer to please Krishna. The object is no longer to develop my relationship with him. Something else comes in the way, in the form of sense gratification, in the form of liberation, and sense gratification can be gross or can be subtle. Name, distinction, adoration, gain. These are different forms of sense gratification. And we have to be very, very careful, very vigilant that this mentality doesn't enter into our hearts. Raghunath Das Goswami, he compares this pratishta to the urine of the ass. And it's like sometimes we take great pleasure in discussing the faults of other people, thinking that we're becoming purified by doing that. Manasiksha, yeah. And then, but it's like, you're bathing in the urine of the ass, thinking you're getting cleansed. Has nothing to do. It's not about pleasing Krishna. It's about self-aggrandizement. We become very, very, anyway, this we're going to discuss it extensively throughout the course, but I just, because we're making the distinction here, So I want to make sure that the distinction between real religion and pretentious religion is established. We're understanding that, right? The real religion is pure bhakti. And like Bhakti in Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he explains how, unless the two witches of bhakti and mukti are, if they are there, we're like haunted by them, we cannot experience the sweetness of bhakti. So Srimad-Bhagavatam is completely rejecting any type of what you call contamination. Like when Prabhupada translated pure bhakti as unalloyed, and the devotees explained that Prabhupada saw one time on the top of a building there was like unalloyed steels, and then from there he got the word, unalloyed, you have a metal which is pure. It has no any other metals added to it. So nothing else is added. Someone is unmuted there. Please mute yourself because it's creating a lot of background noise. So it's pure. Bhagavatam is presenting pure devotional service. It's establishing the glory of bhakti. And as we are studying the Bhagavatam and you're going through the different cantos, you be alert at how this is being expressed and manifested, in different ways, in different situations, with different devotees, but bringing us to the point of understanding that actually, yes, pure bhakti is the ultimate, the topmost activity for everyone, anywhere, anytime, so that we abandon any other material, any other aspiration for any other activity. Okay, I got, there was a few messages I didn't read. Let me just catch up. Prahlad Maharaj, of the different processes recommended for disentanglement from material life, the one personally explained and accepted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be considered all perfect. That process is the performance of duties by which love for the Supreme Lord develops. Beautiful. Thank you, Samuel. Okay. So all these points have been more or less covered. I feel I know many things in ISKCON, but when I hear from the learned great souls, then I realize what is really lacking in me. It is a kind of false prestige, very subtle in the heart. Yeah, and it's embarrassing, isn't it? Sometimes we catch ourselves like pride creeps in. We do some little thing nicely, and we become intoxicated. So we have to be careful. Be careful. And Krishna, the beauty about Krishna consciousness, my experience is being that, if you bring some pride, don't worry about it. Krishna will smash it. He definitely will. He'll deal with it, So better than getting a smash, just give it up. It's a lot less painful, you know, a lot less painful. Okay, so we have a few quotes from Prabhupada here. Someone would like to read? Anyone?
Dharma means the real characteristic. The characteristics cannot be changed, just like water is liquid. The characteristic is that every one of us is serving somebody superior. Therefore, it is said, Dharma projita kaitava, atra. Kaitava means cheating, which is not dharma, which is not the characteristic. The characteristic is that I am eternally servant of God. Instead of giving service to God, I am now engaged in the service of the dog. So on the standard of this so-called service, the Bhagavata Dharma is not discussed. Often when one is baffled in the pursuit of sense gratification, he takes to salvation and tries to become one with the Supreme Lord. Consequently, all these states are simply different types of sense gratification.
Okay, so Dharma Proita Ketavo, that's being explained, right? Clear. Now, Paramo, Tra Paramo. Now, in this book, the highest truth is being presented. Atra Parama. What is the highest truth? Krishna in Vrindavan. That's the highest truth. And who understands this truth? Okay, one more quote on the same topic. Someone else would like to read it?
Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, Chaturvarga, are the four principles of religion that pertain to the material world. Therefore, in the beginning of Srimad-Bhagavatam, it is declared Dharma Projita Kaitavo. Tra, cheating religious systems in terms of these four material principles are completely discarded. Srimad-Bhagavatam teaches only how to develop one's dormant love of God. Sri Caitanya-caritamrta, Adilila 7.84.
Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Rejected. You know that famous verse that these are verses from from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu where it says, like, if you're still attracted to family, friends, society, and opulence, he said, don't go to the banks of Keshi-Ghat, because if you go there, you will see young cowherd boy. He's playing on his flute with a three bend form, and he's casting sidelong glances. And if you hear him, you will lose all attraction for all this. So don't go there, right? So in that verse, what is being praised, or what is being we've been warned not to do, we are actually encouraging, is being encouraged. Please make sure that you mute yourself. Murali Govinda Prabhu. Murali Govinda Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Could you please make sure that you mute yourself?
Yeah.
I will, it's because just starting the course, it's very important that you do that, because for the teacher, it's impossible to keep a track of who is keeping the mics on, and it creates a big disturbance, because you're talking now to someone there, and it just disturbs the whole class. So please be careful. Mute yourself, basically. So the point is that what is saying there? Is he saying no going to the banks of Keshi-Ghat? He's saying go there, and then you will give that immediately, So in the same Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there is another verse. He say, oh, you idiots. He said, you must have heard the syllables of Srimad-Bhagavatam, because I can see that now you no longer have any desire for the objectives of Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained that the beauty of the Srimad-Bhagavatam is that it leaves the reader with no other desire than to attain love of God. That's the beauty of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Nirmat Saranam Satang, is understandable by those devotees who are not envious. This is one of the qualifications to be able to understand. And how does Prabhupada explain this mean non-envious? I'm going to jump that one. He says, who are 100% pure in heart. So what does it mean, Nirmat Sara? How does Prabhupada explain it? In the purport, anyone remembers? Or just in general, what does it mean to be non-envious? Without referring to the purport, just Prabhupada talks about, free from the competitive mentality. Everybody in the material world is trying to get ahead of everybody else. Everybody's trying to, it's a competition. It's like a rat race for sense gratification. But the devotees are free from this competitive mentality. And in the sense of selfish competitive mentality, they're free from that. So now my question is, how do we become free from envy? Archana Bhakti Radha.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So it's said that the devotees, they are centered around pleasing Lord Krishna. So when the other devotee does something very nice, the other devotee is very pleased that, oh, that devotee is doing such a nice thing and Krishna is pleased. So he gets pleased. So the enviousness is not there.
Yeah, that's the ideal. But how do we achieve? Do you feel like that? Or when some God brother and God sister gets some extra mercy, or he does something really nice, sometimes do you feel like
yes,
a little pain in the heart?
That is because we are selfish. My thoughts are centered around me, not around Krishna.
Yeah, good realization. Prema Manjari.
This is actually a long process. It does not happen immediately, but there are several aspects to this. Like one that I would stress is the importance of regular hearing and chanting, Srimad-Bhagavatam, especially in association of sincere devotees. And another aspect is very important, that one actually becomes more internal and really internally focuses on his devotional service. And in this way, one starts experiencing more internal satisfaction in this relationship with the Lord. And then one does not look anymore for gratification outside. But this is a process. Very
nice. Thank you for that. Yeah, we find that when we actually focus on our sadhana seriously, we're getting some personal reciprocation from the Lord. We become peaceful, and we're no longer so much affected by the externals. You experience this sometimes, that you just kind of, and sometimes it happens after we've been through the situation where you are like very disturbed by the external situation, almost just like you have no other alternative but just like focus on your sadhana, focus on going, cry to the holy name, and then all of a sudden you say, well, so what? I just remember, it happened to me even right now. We're doing this Bhisma Panchak and all this, Kartik Vrat. We kind of intensify our spiritual practices a little bit more than usual. Particularly the last 5 days here in Mayapur is a common thing. Many devotees do fast, and for the last 5 days of Kartik. And I just remember, like I was doing a little extra efforts, and And a couple of things happened that normally will disturb me. And I remember saying, so what? And it was so nice, you know. So this happened, so what? I have limited energy, and I want to use it in good things, you know. I don't want to waste my energy with this. It's like I don't have time for it. And I go rounds to chant, I have things to do. So what? You know? And yeah, so it is there for us that for the devotees, also we are coveting, we are desiring something which is much higher than any other material thing that you can attain, right? To develop a relationship with Krishna, to become free from material desires. We are no longer after the things of this material world. So in that way, we become also free from envy, you know. Because envy is usually based on material desire. But as we're practicing Krishna consciousness, you know, material desires are seen more as an obstacle, isn't it? You want Krishna to take them away. You don't want Krishna to fulfill them in one sense. You just want, please take this away. I don't want it. So we're no longer, you know, aspiring for those things, right? Samuel.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah, just about this point. Actually, that I was reading Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He says that, you know, it's, although it says the verse that it's only understandable by those who are non-envious, he says that still by hearing Bhagavatam we become non-envious. And so in that sense,
it's
it
very,
gives us
very, very interesting. I was going to come to that. You know, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, you know, this is understandable by those who are free from envy. But he said, even if you have envy, even if you read it, you will become free from envy. And that's the point I'm making, that, you know, as in Rupa Goswami expressing the Bhagavatam and say, oh, I can see you must have read the Bhagavatam, because you're no longer aspiring for these things. The devotee is no longer aspiring for dharma, you know, kama, you know, artha, moksha is no longer, is aspiring for bhakti. So in this way, he becomes free from envy. Ramananda Krishna Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Yes, so like we say, Prabhuji, like each and every soul is an individual, and each soul is doing bhakti according to his faith, his shraddha. So, like we say, before coming in bhakti, before coming in Krishna consciousness, we were also having this same type of mentalities like material desires, name, fame, recognitions. So even after coming bhakti also, these desires are still there, and it will take some time also for purification. So when we see some devotees singing nicely and making food for Krishna nicely, so we also want that thing. But when we see he is progressing Krishna consciousness, so we have some enviousness for also. But I was hearing one lecture of His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj. So he was telling that, like in regarding competition in spiritual world, like in Golok Vrindavan also, these gopis, they have also the competition for Krishna. They are also serving all 24 hours every time. But they have, like if Lalita is making wonderful garden for Krishna, so Visakha thinks, oh, she made a beautiful garden for Krishna, then I will make more beautiful garden for Krishna. So the competition is there, but that is not material competition like here. That is a spiritual competition, like who can better service for Krishna. So that is competition is there. But here in the material world, yes.
But in the material world, that's kind of very difficult to emulate, because, you know, we may say that, you know, I want to please Krishna more, but really, is it really that we want to please Krishna more, or is it really that we want to be recognized as the best book distributor, or the best this or the best that, you know? So it's something, you know, that, you know, the competitive, what Bhakti Charu Swami is saying, that, yeah, that competitive spirit is there in the spiritual world, and it can be dovetailed in Krishna service, but with great care. Okay, so yeah, and the nature of envy also is that, like, when you are envy, because there's one thing about like being a little kind of jealous, or that you see something in someone and you like it and you want it. Okay, that's kind of healthy. That's healthy. If I see that Ramananda Krishna Prabhu is a very gentle soul, and I say, wow, I'd like to be like him. I wish I was so gentle. That's not envy. That's actually nice. The problem with envy is that when someone has something, you don't have it.
I think Prabhu's internet connection. Yeah.
Sorry about the interruption. So the thing is that, and the nature of envy is that you see someone has something and you want it, and you wish the other person will not be able to have it. That's envy. You're trying to bring people down. I don't have it, I cannot have it, but he should not have it. Try to bring people down. We try to make them, we try to make them be less than what they are. And this is totally against the nature of devotional service. Okay, so Nirmat Saranam. So it's just such a nice concept of like a competition-less society, Prabhupada explains. And Prabhupada in one lecture, I remember he was saying that, everybody's hungry. Everybody in this world, in the material world, is hungry. Okay. And it was in a house program or something like this. It was like non-devotees were there, and Prabhupada was giving this lecture, and he said, everybody's hungry. He said, but hungry for what? He said, everybody's hungry for a society which is free from competition. Where everybody is actually loving. And when Prabhupada sang his letters, your ever well-wisher, that's being free from, that's being Nirmat Saranam. You cannot be the well-wisher of everybody unless you're free from envy. So right from the beginning of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, the qualification to hear this literature and to be able to assimilate the scripture is being established. So it's very, very important that we, have these things present, and that we can, like cultivate this quality. Okay, so here is the quote. Someone would like to read it?
So Srimad-Bhagavatam is transcendental to all these sense gratificatory.
Oh, sorry.
Hare Krishna. Srimad-Bhagavatam is a transcendental to all these sense gratificatory activities. It is purely transcendental literature which can be understood only by the pure devotees of the Lord who are transcendental to competitive sense gratification.
Someone else?
Hare Krishna.
Nirmatsarana Matsarata means to become intolerant when his neighbor is prosperous. In our Krishna consciousness movement, if we become envious, oh my God brother, oh he has become so popular, he is making so much progress, so put some impediments towards his progressive path. This is also material.
Go ahead.
Nirmatsaranam, the Vaikuntha consciousness is that if your neighbor, if your brother is prosperous or progressive, then one should think, oh, he's so nice that he has served God so nicely. God is so pleased upon him that he is making so nice progress. That is Vaikuntha consciousness. Srimad-Bhagavatam 1.1.2, London, August 18, 1971.
Someone else?
Can I read it, Prabhu?
Yeah.
So this Bhagavata Dharma is not for such envious persons. Therefore, it is stated here, Paramo Nirmat Saranam Satam. Not for the envious persons, but not for the envious person. Okay. The envious persons, that means materialists. They will not be able to understand what is spoken in the Srimad-Bhagavatam.
Okay. Now, Vedyam Vastavang Atravastu Shivadam Tapatrayum Mulanam. Now, the truth is being presented. So the highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truths uproots the threefold miseries. So what the truth is being established in the first verse, right? Already. Krishna. And so basically, yeah, the Vastu day. When we actually understand Krishna, when we understand our relationship with him, it causes two things, okay? Shivadam and Tapatrayumulanam. It says here, Atra, the reality, Vastu, which produces auspiciousness, Shivadam. Okay, so we're talking about Shivadam, auspiciousness. Auspiciousness means that we are coming closer to the reality. That's the meaning of auspiciousness. Obstacles are being removed. Our vision, our perspective of the truth is becoming clearer and clearer. That's the meaning of auspiciousness. We're coming more in touch with who I am, who really I am, and who Krishna really is, and what my relationship with this world is. And that causes bliss. Shivadam, it means it gives us bliss. By coming in touch with the Bhagavatam, Shivadam, we become blissful. And simultaneously, the threefold and eradicates the threefold miseries. Tapatraya. You know the threefold miseries, right? Adibhautika, Adhyatmika, Adidaivika. They are uprooted. And you know, the truth, the reality is to be understood in its highest expression. Again, this is the thing that so many different scriptures, they may present so many different concepts, so many different truths, but the truth, which is Krishna, which is non-different from the Srimad-Bhagavatam, is presented in its full manifestation in the Srimad-Bhagavatam only. Because even though other Puranas and other scriptures may refer to Krishna, they don't describe Krishna in full, or they don't focus on just Krishna. Okay, Dharma Proita Tra Paramo Dharma proita ketavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam Vedyam vastavam atra vastu shivadan tapatrayum mulanam Srimad-Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimva Parair Ishvaraha. So now, why this book is also special is because it's compiled by him, by whom? By Mahamuni Srila Vyasadeva. When in his maturity. And again, we go back we were describing about the history of Srimad-Bhagavatam, that Vyasadeva had already compiled all the, Vedic literatures. He had written the Mahabharata, the Vedanta Sutra, and the Puranas, but still he was feeling dissatisfied. And Narada Muni came and enlightened him and instructed him that you now must write a literature which is, focus on the absolute truth. He's going to present the absolute truth in a very clear and ambiguous way. And that gave, that was the Srimad-Bhagavatam. So the uniqueness of the Srimad-Bhagavatam is not only on the topic of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, but it's also on the greatness of its speakers and its listeners. It was compiled by the sage Vyasadeva, who is none different than Krishna. And he himself gave it to Shukadeva Goswami, his son, who was already, an Atmarama. He was already a self-realized person, free from material desires. He gave it to him. And Shukadeva Goswami learned the Bhagavatam from Vyasadeva. And at the time of the recitation of Parikshit Maharaj sitting at the bank of the Ganges, Shukadeva Goswami was selected as the speaker, and Narada Muni and Vyasadeva were there. They were there, they were present. But when they heard the Srimad-Bhagavatam from the lips of Shukadeva Goswami, they felt great satisfaction. This we're going to touch on the next verse. But anyway, the point we made here is also the uniqueness of this book is that it's coming from the author of the Vedas in his maturity. It's a mature contribution. Isvara Sadyor Hridya Varudyate Trakritivi Shushrushuvish Takshanat. Now, this is the blessing of the Bhagavatam. This is the benediction. This is the dharma of the Bhagavatam, you could say. That as soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of the Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme is established within his heart. Okay? So just by hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam, one can capture the Lord. Now, but there is also a qualification being required here, right? It says the Lord Ishvaraha is immediately Sadhya. And sometimes in Sanskrit verses in the verse itself, you find that a point is being emphasized with the same thing is being said like once or twice, like he said, is immediately Sadhya, and at the end it says Takshanat, without delay. Immediately, without delay. So it's like just by hearing the Srimad-Bhagavatam, one can capture the Lord. That's the potency of Srimad-Bhagavatam. And this is why when Lord Chaitanya was teaching Sanatana Goswami, and he delineated what are the 5 most potent items of Bhakti, sadhana Bhakti, he said, Bhagavat Shravana, hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam. He says, but, and what are the other 4? You remember the Panchanga Bhakti? What are the 5 Panchanga Bhakti? what the 5 most potent activities in Krishna consciousness, Shyama Bhakti?
So it's Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtan, Bhagavat Shravan, Mathura Vas, and Sri Murti Sevya.
Very good, nice. So then Lord Chaitanya said that these 5 activities, even by a slight contact with them, even without faith, they can produce bhava in the heart. How potent it is. So, and these verses are spoken by Vyasadeva himself. So he's saying, explaining. So, but now he's saying, it's captured by what is the qualification? He says, by a pious person, kritivihi, who is eager to hear and to serve. This takes place without delay. So when talking about by a pious person, piety in this case, what does piety means? Because we heard before, and we know that Krishna consciousness or bhakti is independent. It's not dependent on piety, is it? So what is being referred to here is as someone who has actually performed some devotional activity before, someone who has come in touch with devotional service. So for them, the Lord is easily captured by hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam. Clear? And then what is the other qualification? Sushrushu. Now one is very eager to hear and to serve. So when Prabhupada translates by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within the heart. What is the culture of knowledge? Can anyone tell me what the culture of knowledge is? Anyone? What is the culture of knowledge? The culture of knowledge is one has to attentively and submissively hear the Srimad-Bhagavatam. That's the culture of knowledge. One has to, and the Bhagavatam says that, the Bhagavatam, and now the Bhagavatam is for everybody. We are praying every day, in the prayers of Sanatana Goswami, and we're saying that you're meant to serve by everyone. In one sense, there is no qualification, okay? Like Prabhu was saying that even those who are envious, by hearing the Srimad-Bhagavatam, they become non-envious. Shrimvata Sokata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana. That by hearing the Srimad-Bhagavatam, that creates piety. So even if we're not pious, it's by hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam, piety will come, okay? But the point is that at the same time, the qualification is that in the sense that if we develop these, the effect of the Srimad-Bhagavatam is much faster. If someone has not developed a submissive attitude towards the Bhagavatam, if someone has envy in the heart, if someone has not come in touch with the devotees, it's going to be more difficult. The Bhagavatam, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains at the beginning that in one sense it's like Mohini Murti, that Mohini Murti cheated the demigods. Sorry, the demigods, cheated the demons. Cheated the demons. So the Bhagavatam also will present, there are some verses in the Bhagavatam that it's almost like teasing the reader to move in a particular direction. They're like tests that come through the Bhagavatam, so that do you actually want Krishna or do you want something else, And those who have material desires, they may get deluded and go in that particular direction. Okay. But the point, the important point that we're hearing here, that we're hearing that one has to be free from envy, one has to be eager, one has to be eager to hear, and one has to be submissive. Okay? So when we're talking about submissiveness, submissiveness means that our hearts are open to the message of the Bhagavatam. Now, when the message comes, we're not going to challenge that message. You know, like when the truth comes, the truth is going to challenge our reality. Particularly if we're materially attached. If we're materially attached, and the Bhagavatam is gonna, tell us about the futility of material activities, we may become disturbed. And we may say, no, the Bhagavatam is wrong, or this is too much, or we may justify our material attachment. But submissive means that when the truth comes, even though that truth may be challenging to me, it may be, like threatening my material desires, I still accept it. Even though I may not be able to implement it straight away in my life, but I understand that this is the highest principle by which I need to work, and I must move in this particular direction, even though I may not be able to embrace it at this moment. But that's the direction I must go. Not that we resent the truth. So it's like, sometimes the spiritual master, I mean, even if you're preachers, you may find that when someone is not ready, you cannot tell them the truth, right? You find that if you tell them a little bit too much, they run away, because it's like, oh, this is, so you have to be very careful how you kind of gradually, reveal things to that person, so that you don't like cause any havoc in his spiritual life. So similarly, for the point is that, but then you find some other person who is very submissive, and no matter what you tell that person, he will say, yeah, I accept. So that person is for that person is easier to accept the principles of the Srimad-Bhagavatam and to hear the message without argument. Like in the Caitanya-caritamrta, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he says that one must hear this scripture with faith and without argument. Being submissive hearing means without argument. We are hearing the Srimad-Bhagavatam, and it's so much background noise going on in the mind. It's like the radio, when you're trying to fine tuning with the radio, you call it like, these unpleasant sounds. My material, what about this? My material desire, what about this? Yeah. But we have to somehow learn to hear in a submissive way, in a mood of a receiver. We want to receive the message of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Am I making sense? Is this making sense or not? Qualifications of hearing? Yes? Okay, so Prabhupada writes in the purport, it says, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, the desire to sincerely hear is the first qualification. And who wants to hear? Why is this a first qualification? Why is it so important to want to hear? Tell me. Why is that the first qualification? Samuel.
Well, Prabhu, it's like in second chapter of Bhagavatam, Sutta Goswami says that when we develop the desire to hear, then Krishna comes into our hearts, and then he starts to purify our hearts.
Yeah, that's what is being mentioned here also, right? Satyo hridya avarudyate tra. The Lord becomes captured. But okay, anything else from anybody else? Why so important the desire to hear? Rupa Goswami Prabhu.
Hearing is the first qualification, because by hearing only we can culture the knowledge. Unless we hear, how can we know the knowledge? How can we know the?
Yeah, we actually we can know Krishna through the process of hearing.
Through the ear.
Through the ear, yeah. You know, Prabhupada was singled out by His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur because he liked to hear. He said, Vaibhava, he likes to hear. I think they were in Vrindavan or Puri, I don't remember now. And all the devotees were going on parikrama, and only a few devotees stayed back with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And Vaibhava, who wasn't like a big sannyasi at the time, he was just like a, like a businessman. He was staying there, and he stayed with him. And Bhaktisiddhanta appreciated. So see, he likes to hear. He didn't go on parikrama and same place. He wanted to stay here and here. I know from His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj, on one occasion, Prabhupada also pointed that out. He said that Jayapataka, at the time, I believe it was Prabhu, Brahmachari, he said he likes to hear. Because he couldn't attend one class, and the classes were recorded. And then, the following day, Jayapataka Maharaj will listen to the class, and on that recording, Prabhupada said that, he likes to hear. So the symptom of someone who is serious about spiritual life is that he wants to learn, he wants to hear more and more. Like you are here because you want to advance in Krishna consciousness. You are sacrificing your time. You could be doing something else. You want to hear, you want to relish, you want to understand. And that is the first qualification and is of utmost importance. And we must, and we're going to touch on that on the next verse. Okay. How do we develop these things? Ramananda Krishna, you wanted to say something?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. We also see like our 9 process of devotion service that also start with Sravanam, then after that Kirtanam. So that is also
begins by hearing. Okay, very nice. Thank you. Okay, so, and he says the process is simple, but the application is difficult. So the process is simple because anyone can do it. It's just about hearing. It's about serving the Lord. It's about, associating with the devotees. But the application is difficult. Why is the application difficult? Prema.
Because it goes against our conditional nature.
Yeah. You have to do it. You have to do it. And mind doesn't want to do it. Right? Okay. Chatura.
Because we had to change our hearts, our lifestyles, and our bad habits. So it's very difficult to convince ourselves to change all this.
Yeah, and it's a gradual process. It doesn't take place overnight, right? We sometimes expect that, we're gonna, become pure devotees like overnight or over the next 3 months, but it's a long journey. It's a long journey. It takes time. And the process is so like pure that it will bring out anything that is just not in line with pure devotional service. And a lot of the time it's overwhelming because we didn't even know that those things were there. It's like, sometimes like it seems that we're getting worse instead of getting better. You find that sometimes? I say, oh my God, I didn't know that I was there. Another desire here. Oh my God. You know? But at the same time, we know as we are making progress, it's just interesting, like that verse is there in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where it says that, you know, hope against hope, you know, that it seems that the more progress we make in Krishna consciousness, it seems the goal is further away, you know. The more we advance and we're becoming more aware of where we're at, of who Krishna is, of so many things, and oh my God. But at the same time, we are also realizing more and more how merciful Krishna is, and there is that hope. Okay, you know, I will get there. May not get there as soon as I thought that I will, but if I continue with the process, I will get there. You know, so that the body has that. Murali Govinda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji,
Yeah.
Dandavat Pranam. It is like even for obtaining any kind of qualification or degree, academic degree, we have to apply first and go through the entire process to acquire that qualification. Similarly, even this hearing also is a great qualification. Unless you don't have attentive hearing, what is the use of it?
Yeah, yeah.
This is what I felt.
Nice, thank you. Rupa Goswami Prabhu.
Here in this sloka, it said that this Srimad-Bhagavatam is relatable by Parama Nirmat Saranam Satam, those who are free from envy, and Satam, they are pure by heart. But if we see most of us, at least me, we are from that conditioned background that so many desires, so many material conditioning is there. So the beauty is that we are also qualified if we are submissive to hear with faith.
Was that a question or a comment?
This is the question was that
What was the question then? I didn't get the question. It sounded like a comment.
okay, it is like a comment. Okay.
Okay.
What I wanted to tell is that as per this sloka, this Srimad-Bhagavatam releasable by Parama Nirmat Saranam Satam, the pure by heart. But if we see that we are not so...
I heard all the comments, but what is the question? What is the question?
Actually, question was from my side that when we read about this sloka, that this Srimad-Bhagavatam is releasable by pure devotees. But we are conditioned. So even we are also qualified if we are submissively hearing it. You did not get it?
Yeah, I probably I was kind of distracted for a second. I was just looking at the skin. We are not Nirmat Saranan, but still we're qualified. How is that?
Yeah.
Is that the question?
Yeah. That is the beauty of this Srimad-Bhagavatam.
Yeah, the point here, I think I already answered the question in the explanation, is that, you know, these qualifications, they come also in the form of an aspiration for us. Okay, that you know, at the same time, the Bhagavatam is for everyone. It's appearing in the Kali Yuga age for bringing light into the heart of the people of Kali Yuga. And yeah, we're full of envy, you know. So the point being made is that if we want to really benefit from the study of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, then we have to cultivate these qualities. This is what qualifies us for hearing the Srimad-Bhagavatam in the proper consciousness. Okay? But if we don't have those qualities at the moment, just by hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam, we will develop them. At the same time, the point I think is very important to note is that when we're doing any spiritual activity, we should know also what is the goal, what are the criteria. So it's very important to understand when we feel that pinch in the heart, the envy towards other devotees, the desire to criticize, we should see that as an obstacle. That this is actually is preventing me from relishing the Srimad-Bhagavatam, preventing from hitting nice rounds, chanting nice rounds, from developing my relationship with Krishna. I have to give it up. This is not good. It's not conducive for my spiritual life. Some people take great joy in going in the internet and hearing all kinds of blasphemies and going into all these controversial polemic topics and arguing about and fighting with each other and trying to put people down and making themselves. It's just so like contrary to the principles of being a Vaishnava, you know. And they try to come, you know, so we should be careful that we don't fall into that trap. Right? Is that answering your question?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna have a break. I was just wondering, Charulata Radhika, are you there? Because your camera is never on you, you know?
Yes, I'm very much here.
Yeah, I pointed out. It's just nice if you can keep your camera so that we can see you. Okay?
Sure, sure.
It's
sure.
always pointing to the roof.
Oh,
And
I'm sorry.
Muni Krishna Prabhu, are you there?
Yes, Prabhu, I'm there.
Muni Krishna, where are you? I don't see you.
Yes,
Oh,
Prabhu.
yeah, okay. You have two cameras, yeah. And Shyamananda Prabhu? Shyamananda is there? Shyamananda. Okay, Shyamananda Gaur is not there, okay. Okay, so we'll have a little break for 10 minutes. Is that okay? So it's 3:38 here. Just count 10 minutes from now. We'll see each other in 10 minutes. Okay, Shyamananda is there. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay, Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, we are continuing with our discussion. Now we're moving on to the third verse of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Nigama kalpataror kalitam phalam Sukhamukat amritadrava samyutam Pivata bhagavatam rasam alayam muharaho rasika vupiva bukaha. Someone can read the translation. Someone who has not contributed yet, maybe?
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Prabhuji, okay.
Someone who has not participated. Muni Krishna Prabhu, come, you do it.
O expert and thoughtful man, relate Srimad-Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desultory of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls.
Thank you. So the first verse established the glory of Krishna and his qualities and his characteristics. Second verse, and the power of Krishna. Second verse established the power of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. And now in the third verse, it moves from the power to the sweetness of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. What is the power of the Srimad-Bhagavatam? The power is that it can capture at once the Lord within the heart. For those who hear submissively and attentively, it can capture the heart. The Lord becomes, captured. Now, in this verse, Vyasadeva is inviting humanity to relish the Srimad-Bhagavatam. In the first verse, the word was Satyam Param Dhimahi. He was actually also inviting us to join him in his meditation on the Supreme Lord. But now we go, it's like Pivata, Bhagavatam, Rasam, Alayam. He says now, please relish this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the mature fruit, Nigama Kalpa Taror Galitam Phalam. So the Vedas are described as like a desired tree, Why? Because in the Vedas, you can fulfill all types of material desires. It's like a desire tree in that sense. You want to fulfill any particular material aspiration, and there is a particular, process, means by which you can attain that. Like we described, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, the four goals of human life, they can be achieved by following the Vedas. But now when you have a tree, and to grow that tree is very difficult and it takes a long time, but the ultimate purpose of growing a tree is to get the fruit of that tree. And what to speak, not just getting the fruit, but when the fruit is mature and if it falls from the tree, so the whole body, Nigama, the whole body of Vedic literatures is compared to a tree, Kalpataror. And in that tree of all the Vedas, the fruit that is produced from all that is the Srimad-Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of all Vedic knowledge is what is being presented to us here by Srila Vyasadeva. And that's what we're describing before. In his maturity, he compiled this. So whatever goals, whatever aspirations we can derive from the study of the Vedas, it can be obtained through the Srimad-Bhagavatam. So in this sloka, it is stated that Srimad-Bhagavatam is not only a superior literature, but it is the ripened fruit of all Vedic literatures. In other words, it is the cream of Vedic knowledge. It's the fruit. And in the previous verse, it was, actually we didn't, just one second. Yeah, in the previous verse, it says, what is the need to study any other book, right? So here we find that, why? It's a mature fruit. All the Vedic knowledge is presented in the, you could see that all the Vedic knowledge is pointing towards bhakti. All the Vedic knowledge is pointing towards developing a personal relationship with the Lord. Talking about how the Bhagavatam in the previous verse, we're explaining how the Bhagavatam presents the highest truth, and the highest truth is the spiritual world, is Vrindavan, is the devotees in the spiritual world. That's the highest truth in its topmost manifestation. And the purpose of understanding that truth is that we also enter into that reality and we experience rasa, we experience the juice, we experience bhakti rasa, which is the nectar that the soul is hankering for. Well, we're looking, and Prabhupada elaborates on these points of rasa. But okay, let's go. He says, Prabhupada writes, considering all these, patient and submissive hearing is definitely essential. With great respect and attention, one should receive the message and lessons imparted by the Srimad-Bhagavatam. So it's interesting here is, first of all, patient. That was included before, right? We have already like like being eager to hear, being free from envy, pious, engaging in devotional service, patient and submissive. He says that, and with great respect and attention. The Bhagavatam is explained that it can be worshipped just as we worship the Lord. So one should receive the message of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Okay. So the Vedas are compared to the desire tree because they contain all things knowable by man. They deal with mundane necessities as well as spiritual realization. Regulated knowledge involves a gradual rising of the living entity to the spiritual platform. And the highest spiritual realization is knowledge that the personality of Godhead is the reservoir of all spiritual tastes or rasas. The highest spiritual realization is knowledge that the personality of Godhead is the reservoir of all spiritual tastes or rasas. Akila, rasa, mrita, murti. The opening verse of the Nectar of Devotion. All types of, experiences that we can have. Everybody's working in this material world because we want to experience some taste. There is some taste that we want to relish. And that's the motive, the impetus for any type of activity. We engage in any activity because we want to have an experience. Now, the thing is that material experience, it doesn't satisfy us fully because the object is temporary. And like it was explained also in the first verse, is illusory. So we are searching for water in the desert, basically. Being in the material world, we try to engage in material activities with the expectation that that's going to bring us happiness and fulfillment. But generally, we find suffering and repetition of birth and death. So the Bhagavatam, what is being introduced, and remember that, this is the prelude of the Bhagavatam, the introductory verses, now is inviting us to relish spiritual rasa, to relish the real joy for the soul, which is to exchange, to have a loving exchange with the Supreme Lord, to focus, to direct our activities towards the service of the Lord, without any type of expectation, without any type of selfishness. When we actually apply ourselves to do this, we can enjoy spiritual rasa. And this spiritual rasa, like it's being explained in this verse, it goes beyond liberation. It goes, is Pibata Bhagavatam Rasam Alayam Muhur Ahor Rasika Uvibabuka. It says that, this spiritual rasa is so, it can be translated in different ways. We'll come to that in a minute. So, but I just want to kind of go sequentially through the verse, through the verse. So, Pibata Bhagavatam Rasam Alayam. It says, drink this nectarian juice of Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is relishable for all, including liberated souls. So, the story goes with Sukadeva Goswami that he was already a liberated soul. But when he heard the verses of the Srimad-Bhagavatam being recited by the disciples of Vyasadeva, his mind became attracted. His mind became attracted to the Srimad-Bhagavatam, and he came. So the Bhagavatam is attractive even for those who are free from material desires. Lord Chaitanya himself, he will take joy and happiness in hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam. Again and again and again, he will hear the Bhagavatam from Gadadhar Pandit, from Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. He will hear the Bhagavatam in the Association of the Devotees. He will hear the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, and after the pastime was completed, he will ask, let's hear it again, let's hear it again. Yeah? So Rasam Alayam, he says, relish this, and alaya, like we have like a Dukalayam, or we have in, how do you say chemist in Hindi? I forgot now. What is the name for chemist, for pharmacy in Hindi?
Rasayan, Guruji, Rasayan.
Huh? I couldn't hear it.
Rasayan.
For hospital, we say Rugnalaya.
For the pharmacy.
For pharmacy, it's Dawakana or something. Not
You have
Alaya.
Alayang. It's also with Alaya. It's the place where you find medicine. What is it?
Aushadhalaya.
Huh?
Aushad Alaya.
Yeah. So you find, and the place where you find misery is the material world. Dukkhalayam. Okay. So the Bhagavatam is Rasalayam. It's full of rasa. Jiva Goswami says that some people say that the Bhagavatam, there is some rasa in the Bhagavatam. And he said, no, there is no, it's not that there is rasa in the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam itself is rasa. Every single word is full of it. Prema varshya aksharayate. Every syllable can bestow prema. And alayang also can be translated, as I said, I was explaining that it can be translated as beyond liberation. It can be relished on the conditioned state, and even when we attain the liberated stage, also the great souls who are already liberated, they want to hear Srimad-Bhagavatam. That's the power of Srimad-Bhagavatam. And another way to translate this, they say that the last one of the Sattvika Bhavas, of ecstatic symptoms, which is pralaya, fainting, says, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says that once you hear Bhagavatam, again and again and again, until he faints out of ecstasy. And then when he is, recovering again from fainting, he should listen to it again, again, until he faints again. This is how we should, how Vyasadeva is inviting us to hear the message of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. And this eagerness to hear the Bhagavatam, like it was demonstrated by Srila Prabhupada. I mean, Prabhupada himself, he devoted the best time of his day to translate and to hear the Srimad-Bhagavatam. That was the ultimate weapon he brought to the West. And there are many examples. Okay, so the Supreme Personality of Godhead is therefore described in the Shruti mantras, Vedic hymns, as the fountainhead of all rasas. When one associates with the Supreme Lord and exchanges one's constitutional rasa with the Lord, then the living being is actually happy. So back to the prelude, the structure of the prelude, what this verse is inviting us, this is the goal of the Bhagavatam. We were talking about what are we aspiring when we're doing this bhaktivaibhava? What is the goal? We want to develop our relationship with the Lord. We want to become joyful in that association with the Lord. We want our minds to become absorbed in the sound vibration of his pastimes, of his devotees, of the different loving exchanges that take place in the Bhagavatam. And we want that same ecstasy, that same love of his devotees to be transferred into our hearts, so that we also become joyful, we also become happy, we also want to relish the same, loving exchanges. That's the invitation of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. That's the invitation of Srila Vyasadeva. And that's why he's saying, okay, Nigama Kalpa Taror Galitam Phalam Sukham Mukat Amrita Drava Samhita. Okay, and this is also being explained that this Srimad-Bhagavatam is so nectarian also. Why? I was explaining that in the previous verse, because it's spoken by Srila Sukadeva Goswami. And he himself, he has so much love for the Lord, then when he speaks the Bhagavatam, that love that he has, that bhakti that he has, it comes through his recitation. And this is the power of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. And the power of the speakers of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. That when You see, the greatness of the Srimad-Bhagavatam in this case, as I was saying, is the greatness of the speaker. So it's like, for example, when we, say we get some Raj Bhoga, okay, prasadam, some not Raj Bhoga, we get the offering, the prasadam from the Raj Bhoga offering, okay. That's gonna be really delicious and ecstatic. But if that's being honored by our spiritual master, and we take the remnants of him, then it becomes even more nectarian, more ecstatic, right? So now the Srimad Bhagavatam, this fruit, this transcendental fruit, is being handed down. When you have the fruit is on the top of the tree, and there is always that fear that if the fruit falls from the tree on the floor, it gets smashed and you cannot enjoy the fruits. So this transcendental fruit, which is on the top of the tree, is being handed down to us from a spiritual master to disciple. And while the message remains unadulterated, it becomes sweeter and sweeter by the realizations of the devotee, of the different devotees. In this case, the example is given like like the parrot. This is common in India, maybe not so common for those not living in India, that when the parrot touches the mango fruit or the fruit becomes even sweeter. So similarly, when Narada Muni and when Vyasadeva, they heard the Srimad Bhagavatam from the lips of Sukadeva Goswami, they felt like they have never heard before the Srimad Bhagavatam by the touch of the lips of Sukadeva Goswami. So we aspire to be able to hear Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of those devotees who have developed a taste. And in that association, we also develop that taste. Okay, in this sloka, it is definitely stated that spiritual rasa, which is relished even in the liberated stage, can be experienced in the literature of the Srimad Bhagavatam due to its being the ripened fruit of all Vedic knowledge. By submissively hearing this transcendental literature, one can attain the full pleasure of his heart's desire. So are we becoming inspired to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam? Are we becoming inspired to study the Srimad Bhagavatam? This should be like a real catalyst, like an act, like, wow, this is, the Bhagavatam is giving us the highest thing, the highest possible attainable thing, that there is, the ultimate goal is available in the pages of the Bhagavatam, if we give a submissive, attentive hearing. Murli Govinda Prabhu, you wanted to comment something?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
We're waiting.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, even for relishing the taste of hearing this Srimad Bhagavatam also, we need to acquire some qualification.
Yeah.
Hearing is different. In fact, while hearing also, we should be able to relish the taste also. Taste of hearing. Yeah. For that, what kind of qualification we need to acquire?
Okay, can someone reply to him? I'm asking that question at this point is making me a little depressed. It makes me feel I just didn't really, I spent like about an hour and didn't start the class. Can someone reply to that? Because that's been the topic of the class up until now. What is the qualification? Anyone?
Yes, Guruji, as you told, like to hear with patient and submissively.
Okay, what else? Ananda Vardhana Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji, the submissive hearing and keen desire.
Sorry, it broke up.
The keen desire, the keenness to
Eagerness to hear. Okay, it's very bad quality sound. Srinarayan Prabhu, go ahead.
Prabhu, the same point I think I want to mention, but you mentioned very specifically without any argument, like with faith and argument. You just added that.
With faith, with argument, nirmat saranam satam,
Nirmat-saranam.
becoming free from envy. So how important is our attitude outside of the class? Okay, we're here in Srimad-Bhagavatam now, but how important is our attitude outside of the class for us in order to speak, to experience this? It's a good, Murli Govinda, don't get me wrong, it's a good question, but the point is that we have discussed already, right? So how important, now I'm throwing back to all of you a question. The question is, how important is our attitude outside of the class for us to be able to hear Srimad-Bhagavatam and experience that joy and that taste? Like Prabhupada, he was, the devotees will read Krishna book to him, and Prabhupada will be like, hitting with his hand, he was hitting his leg like, wow, Krishna just doing like that. He was so excited. He was there. He was there with Krishna and relishing the pastime. And if we really, obviously Prabhupada is a liberated soul and he's in touch with Krishna. And, on another occasion, you probably heard the story when he was in New Vrindavan, it was Janmashtami, and it was like midnight and the devotees, the arti is finished, everybody's just wanting to take prasadam, and Prabhupada said, okay, get the Krishna book. Everyone, Haribo, Haribo. So they read the first chapter, which is quite long, and the devotees there was many sannyasis there with the dandas, and the dandas were like, like everybody was like falling asleep, because it's midnight, fasting all day. It's like 1 o'clock, practically speaking. And then that's when the Bhaktivedanta purports to, and everyone were like, Haribo. And then Prabhupada, okay, second chapter. And the devotees were like struggling. But Prabhupada was relishing. And that is very instructive for us, because this is where the real happiness is. The real happiness that the Bhagavatam is presenting to us is to become absorbed in Krishna consciousness, which is mainly done through hearing and chanting. We can do it through prasadam. Don't get me wrong. Definitely we can do it through prasadam. But honoring prasadam, and pure consciousness also. And the Bhagavatam is inviting us to do that. And in order to do that, there is a whole lifestyle that goes along with it. So therefore, I'm saying, how important is the attitude outside of class to develop this? Muni Krishna Prabhu, you would like to answer? You have your hand up there.
Yeah, I just wanted to share a few things. Might be not really related. Sadhya and sadhana are the same, because once we start hearing, in our conditioned state, we may not relish now, but when you continuously hear, so sadhana and sadhya, so once we get purified, so it became relishable. I think so. It's same like
You're right. The activity in one sense doesn't change, but the consciousness in which the activities is performed, it changes.
Yeah.
And I have been like that. I every year for Kartik, for many years before the COVID, I will go for a reading marathon with senior devotees in Govardhan. We will read every year for like 5 hours a day. And there was like Vaisheshika Prabhu, His Holiness Keshava Bharati Das Goswami, Danodar Maharaj, Jai Advaita Swami. There were many senior Vaishnav gurus, and there was some younger devotees also. And we were all here in the Srimad-Bhagavatam, but everybody was having a different experience because of the different development of Krishna consciousness and because of the different attitude. So attitude, Prabhupada writes in the preface of the Nectar of Instruction that attitude advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. So we have to develop the proper attitude. And some key points are being given here. Murli Govinda Prabhu, what are they? Tell me three without explanation, just 3 words. Murli Govinda. What are those key attitudes?
Ninmatsaranam, I will say that.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai Haribo. Okay. I can breathe now. I'm happy. You know, the message was conveyed. Come on, one more.
Prabhuji, why I asked this question is also like we were told to read 41 pages a day of Srimad-Bhagavatam.
To read the whole Bhagavatam in 1 year.
To be frank with you, I was not able to do that. That's why my question was, why I am not getting the taste? Because there are some shortcomings. That's my analysis. But
okay, so yeah, you're giving some context to the question now. Yeah. So you know, we are where we are at. You know, you cannot force yourself to be somewhere else. You know, you can only start from the point that you are. So you gradually build up. And I find that sometimes to read on your own may be difficult. You can find yourself a partner to read on a daily basis. You can do it through WhatsApp, through Skype, Zoom. Find some partner. You can join someone who has more taste maybe, or just the fact that you have a team, a partner, reading partner, you can do it with. That's something that can help you to overcome that. So if someone else needs to read the 41 pages, okay, so let's do it together. That's one way. The other way is, as I said, you know, what time of the day are you going to do it? You know, because we're tired. You know, sometimes we're tired and you read like 2 pages and you've already like, your nose is on the book, basically, right? So there are different challenges that we face, and then we can overcome them by, you know, different techniques. For example, if you're falling asleep, you can stand up and read the book while standing up. You know, it's sometimes it's simple things like this. But the general principle here is that in order to develop a taste for hearing, we have to serve also. Susrusho shadadanasya vasudeva kataruchi is, you know, syam mahat sevaya vibra punya tirtha nishevanat. Bhagavatam itself says that if we want to develop a taste for hearing the message of Vasudeva, we have to serve the devotees who are fully pure in heart. So it's a whole package. Okay.
Yes, sir.
But the point that where we're learning from here, and we should learn that eagerness is a qualification, that piety in the sense of performance of bhakti, that's also a qualification, and that, you know, giving up envy is also a qualification. And then just patiently go through the pages of the Bhagavatam. Now, 41 pages is like when you go to the gym, you start with small weights. You don't start with big weights, because if you start with big weights, you will hurt yourself. I remember many years back, we took a vow with my wife that we will read every day together 2 hours. Bhagavatam. 2 hours. It was too much for her, you know, because there were so many other duties. When the month was over, he had enough, you know. It was like, it wasn't like, okay, now, you know, it was too much, you know. And I realized, I said, okay, you don't have to do more than what you take, that you can take, you know. So everybody has the different type of diet. But the goal, if the goal is to come to that platform, and the instruction is coming from the spiritual master, then it means there's proper diet, and then you have to make the necessary arrangements also to come to that platform gradually. Okay. Makes sense or not?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Jamastami Krishna, all glories to you staying away. You're showing us about how to, you know, display this enthusiasm. Like, what is it?
Yeah.
Is it 1 o'clock in the morning? What is the time there?
Yeah, it's almost getting to 12 o'clock now, bro.
Okay.
Oh, thank you so much. I think it's really enlivening. Prabhuji, I was just reading this purport of Srila Prabhupada on the chapter, and I just wanted to know a bit more about the rasas, because Srila Prabhupada talks about this 12 rasas in these verses. We have touched on that. I know that you talked about it and you said you're going to come back to it later on, while we were talking about it for probably an hour ago, but you didn't go more in that.
Okay,
So
well, basically, yeah. The topic is basically rasa. I mean, the 12 rasas, you have like 5 primary rasas and 7 secondary rasas. This is the whole topic of the Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu. Is the science of rasa. So when talking about rasa, we're talking about that taste that comes from serving the Lord. And Rupa Goswami explains in the Nectar of Devotion that you have mundane rasa and spiritual rasa. And there is a problem with mundane rasa. Mundane rasa is the taste that we derive from spiritual activities. And then he says that is chapalasuka. It's like it gives, there is 2 problems with it. That is temporary and it's flickering. And then you go is what is the other thing? Is you shift from the point you enjoy something from some time, and then after you enjoy something from some time, you become satiated, and then you give it up. And then after a while, you want it again. So the idea is that material mundane rasa, it doesn't really satisfy the soul. And we have plenty of experience of that. But when we are coming to the point of spiritual rasa, that spiritual rasa is eternal and is transcendental. And that is what is being offered here by Vyasadeva. And what is that? What is it? When we actually develop that urge within my heart, within our hearts, that I want to give Krishna pleasure, and I act on that that conception of the heart, which is, by the way, there is a connection of the points I have been presented philosophically in the first verse already. It was that we are all there is Krishna. At the same time, Krishna remains aloof, and that we have a, what my dharma is, which is explained in the second verse. My dharma, my paradharma, is to render service to the Lord in an unmotivated and uninterrupted way, without any selfish motives, because my dharma is determined by who I am, what I am, and what I am made for. For me, being a part and parcel of Krishna, I am made for serving Krishna. I am made for loving Krishna. You see, and that is what, is going, when I do that, I'm going to experience that nectar, that rasa that I'm searching for. So in the previous verse also, it was being said that this, what is it? Shivadan tapatrayamulanam, that this Srimad-Bhagavatam, the highest, this Bhagavatam propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. So when we're saying that, how does it happen? How do we become free from the threefold miseries? Are we experiencing freedom from the threefold miseries through the practice of Krishna consciousness? We discussed that earlier today in connection with something else, right? But, we were discussing in connection with feeling envy, for example.
Yes.
That by deep absorption in Krishna consciousness, we become indifferent, right? Have we experienced freedom from the miseries of material existence by the practice of Krishna consciousness? Hands up. Or you say, have you experienced freedom from the misery? Please just raise your hands. Otherwise, I think it's getting worse. Is it getting worse with Krishna consciousness? If you don't raise your hands, I'm thinking you're more miserable now than before. Okay, hands up. There is a button there that you press you can raise your hand with the reactions. Is it you're becoming free from the miseries of material existence? Or, my gosh, I was so happy. I was so happy before. Now I have to chant 16 rounds, get up early in the mornings, follow all these rules, all these regulations, and tolerate the devotees, and Is it like that, or is it actually I'm experiencing freedom? We have personal experience, right? Practical experience of becoming free from the miseries of material existence. Yet we have not become free yet. Why? And I'm going a little bit on a tangent here from your question, Prabhu, but it's kind of relevant also, Yamastami Krishna Prabhu, because it's very relevant to the discussion. And is that, the Bhagavatam, the way that we become free from the miseries of material existence is by becoming free from the identification with the body.
That's right.
Okay, you find later that the Bhagavatam is a meditation of Vyasadeva. Sorry, a meditation of Vyasadeva. He sat down in pure Krishna consciousness and he saw the suffering of the living entities, and he understood that the suffering was caused by them identifying with matter. And what causes that identification with matter is the desire to enjoy. We think that we can enjoy, the material world, and that entangles us, and then we have to suffer the threefold miseries. So by hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam, I'm becoming less bodily, becoming more Krishna conscious, basically, in less, our body, we're less in bodily consciousness, then we're able to transcend the miseries of material existence. And it's a gradual thing. And it doesn't, there is one thing which is to know the philosophy, which more or less we're learning it, we more or less know it. But the other one, the next step is to actually the implementation. And that's what we said. The process is simple, but the application is difficult. Because, to know that we're not the body, how long it takes? Okay, yeah, I can get that. But to live according to that principle, wow, my God, that takes a long time. And you find like Krishna, like Prabhupada, when he was leaving this world, and the devotee saw him, and the devotee put this kind of almost like a face of disgust because Prabhupada's condition, and Prabhupada said, don't think that this will not happen to you. Dehinosmin yatadehe komaran yovananjara tatadehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuhyati. He says, a sober person is not bewildered. Prabhupada actually realized that he was not the body. Therefore, he was able to be on his deathbed translating Srimad-Bhagavatam. Aloof from the pain. He had realized it. He had transcended, the miseries of material existence. But we haven't. And he was relishing the spiritual rasa of that relationship with Krishna. Not only he was translating Bhagavatam, he was hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam until the end. The devotees were reading the first canto of the Bhagavatam. So that's the spiritual rasa that he's been talking about. And when you see what the invitation here really is, which is explained, we may not be able to see it as we read the verse initially, but the invitation really is that, Vyasadeva is inviting us to Vrindavan. Everything is leading us to go to the 10th canto and hear the loving exchanges of the residents of Vrindavan. That's the goal of the Bhagavatam. And that love is special type of love. It's not just, it's prema, but it's vraja prema. So that's the invitation, that we are able to enjoy that reciprocation from the Lord. Is that making sense, Janmastami Prabhu? You were looking for something more detailed or something?
No, I think that's really good. I think that covers that. I think the last point you mentioned around the understanding about mundane rasa or mundane love, and also making it
because this is, I mean, I didn't go, because if we go into a lot of detail, then we don't move forward. In fact, already I'm explaining a lot of things that are going to come forward later, but this we discussed already in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu in the previous in the previous Bhakti Shastri, right? So you have Bhoga Tyaga and Chapala Sukha. Okay, well, you know, this is the problem with mundane rasa, and this is what happened. We are expecting that I'm gonna join the gym and I'm gonna, you know, become happy. I'm gonna get a new girlfriend. I'm gonna get a new motorbike. I'm gonna get this, getting that. But the fact is that most people in the material world are miserable because the soul is not being nourished. And while we may need a certain amount of material activity in our life, you could say, you know, but without that spiritual taste, we are you know, we are drying up. Like, you know, we're not. It's like Prabhupada explains that the material in the song he sings, you know, that we just trying to be happy with a drop of water in the desert. When the soul is looking for ananda, and you know, anandam buddhi vardhanam, you know, looking for an ocean of happiness, and that ocean of happiness is experienced in connection with Krishna. Nothing else can do that, and that's why the glories of bhakti are going to be, you know, exalted in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. That just a drop of nectar cannot compare to, you know, a drop. Basically, the happiness of material life cannot compare even with a drop of the nectar of the ocean that we can experience in relationship with Krishna.
That makes sense.
So the goal of the Srimad-Bhagavatam is to develop, to experience that taste. That's the goal. And as we are studying the Bhagavatam, we're going to see different devotees in the relationships with the different avatars, with Krishna. And then, you know, in one sense, it's not exactly like that, but in one sense, it's also like when you are in a movie, in a theater, that's a science of rasa. Also, it was based on this concept that when you are in a theatrical performance or something, some like you know, some drama is taking place, and the sentiment, if the drama is performed very, very nicely, the same sentiments of the protagonist and the hero, you experience that. Yeah. So when we are also here in Srimad-Bhagavatam, we're also able to experience the feelings of the devotees involved in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. So that's the invitation. Clear?
Thank you so much, bro. Thank you.
Okay, so Chatura Mata, you have your hand up. I wanted to finish today earlier, but it's not gonna happen. Let's see, Chatura.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. And I want to know which is appear first, Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam, which?
Okay, so Bhagavad Gita appears when? At the end of the battle, at the beginning of the battle of Kurukshetra, right? And Bhagavatam appears. Who is Parikshit Maharaj? He is the grandson of whom? Arjuna, right? And the battle of Kurukshetra already finished, right? Yeah. So what appears first?
That means at that time, they were Parikshit just listened to Sukha Goswami. That means at that time, Vyasa, they were already compiled this Srimad-Bhagavatam.
Say again. Basically, you're saying that, well, when Vyasadeva is speaking here, he's speaking all the verses, you know, he's speaking these 3 verses, right? And then now we're going to hear about, you know, Sutta Goswami and the sages at Namisharanya. That takes place much later. That takes place even after the. So like the chronology of everything is a little kind of complex in that sense. But when Vyasadeva compiled the Bhagavatam, he compiled all the verses. The Bhagavatam, in one sense, is an eternal scripture. So he compiled things that were going to happen afterwards. But in regards to your question, is Bhagavatam before or after Bhagavad Gita? It's after Bhagavad Gita. After the Bhagavad Gita appears as part of the Mahabharata, and Bhagavatam is a later composition by Vyasadeva. Clear? That's clear. Okay, so let's go. I'm not sure where we left off now. It's been a long time. Let's see. Okay, here it is. You can see my screen now? Can you see my screen?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes,
Yeah.
Prabhuji.
Okay, that's good. So let's see where we. Okay. Okay, so we already discussed that. Shuka mukhat amrita drava samyutam. We discussed how this fruit has become more tasteful because it emanated from the lips of Sukadeva Goswami. That was discussed. Now, it says the Vedic fruit which is mature and ripe is amrita drava samyutam. It says the Vedic fruit which is mature and ripe in knowledge is spoken through the lips of Srila Sukadeva Goswami, who is compared to the parrot, not for his ability to recite the Bhagavatam exactly as he heard it from his learned father, but for his ability to present the work in a manner that will appeal to all classes of men. So this will be described later that, when someone is realized, he can present things in a way which are understandable. Now, this fruit of Srimad-Bhagavatam is explained that the beauty of the Bhagavatam also is like a fruit which has no skin, which has no seed, which is just pulp. And when something is with no skins, no seed, it's very easy to swallow. It's very easy to digest. And this is by the mercy of, this is the nature of the Bhagavatam. It's just like a ripened fruit, which has nothing which is to be thrown out. It's completely pure and it's very easy. It's like drava. It means it's like, like pulp. You don't have to even chew it. You can just swallow it. So, okay. So muhur aho rasika bubibabuka. All expert and thoughtful men who can appreciate the mellows of devotional service, rasikas, you should relish Srimad-Bhagavatam again and again. Muhur aho. Aho means also like when something which is very difficult to attain, it can be easily attained through the Srimad-Bhagavatam. In other words, to actually be able to experience the spiritual rasa is not easy, but it's easier, or it is easy through the hearing and recitation of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Srimad-Bhagavatam is so carefully presented that a sincere and serious person can at once enjoy the ripened fruit of Vedic knowledge simply by drinking the nectarian juice through the mouth of Sukadeva Goswami or his bona fide representative. Okay. Okay, so that takes us to the end of this verse. Very, very important verse. Sukha amrita drava samyutam. Yeah. So basically, one should drink. The invitation here is that one should drink the nectarian juice that is coming through the lips of Sukadeva Goswami in the form of Srimad-Bhagavatam, and develop our relationship with Krishna. Basically, we want Krishna. That's the ultimate desire. We want Krishna. And Krishna is the Bhagavatam. There is no difference between Krishna and the Bhagavatam. So the fruit of studying the Bhagavatam is to develop that relationship with him. There is nothing outside of it, basically, It's like, what is the fruit of chanting? It's more chanting, What is the fruit of hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam? It's more hearing, more hearing, more hearing. Up until the point it goes beyond liberation, because these pastimes of the Lord are eternal. And as he says, even if you attain, this very exalted status of consciousness, you faint, okay, you recover consciousness here again, here again, here again. And that urgency, it is actually required if we want to, when we're talking about that shu, that eagerness to hear, the more we understand what is being actually presented, and the more we understand the happiness derived from contact with devotional service, the more we're going to become very eager, and we're going to this intense eagerness to catch it is gonna, it's gonna be very, very intense. But that eagerness we may not have at the moment, because we are, like you said, we're in conditioned state, we are jaundiced. So we want to come in touch with those rasikas, those devotees who are, who have that taste. And in that association, through the sound vibration that emanates from their mouths, then we develop this desire, this aspiration to hear and relish Srimad-Bhagavatam in the association of the devotees. Any questions or comments from anybody?
Very good. Thank you, Boo.
Thank you for staying awake. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm feeling that we should move the times for you, but I guess then Samuel will be getting up then he will be getting up very, very early. So it's a bit of a problem. Okay, Chatura, you have a hand up, or is that from before?
Yes, Prabhu. It is said that Shukadeva Goswami is the parent of Radharani. Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, that story is told by Gaura-Govinda Swami. There is that story is there. Gaura-Govinda Swami tells the story. Murli Govinda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. In Bhagavad Gita, we have seen only very few characters, and most of the Bhagavad Gita runs between Krishna and Arjuna only. Arjuna raises some questions or asks some clarifications, doubts, and then Krishna clarifies. Of course, through the Arjuna as an instrument, he is teaching us, the entire mankind, how to live the life, this human body. But in Bhagavatam, we have seen the glories of so many devotees of the Lord have been explained throughout Bhagavatam. And even though it is a discussion between Sutta Goswami, and he explains to the sages as well as Maharaj Parikshit, what way this is more superior to Bhagavad Gita, because even Prabhupada also says that initially we should read Bhagavad Gita and understand, then we should go to Srimad-Bhagavatam, and subsequently the last qualification is Caitanya-caritamrta.
Yeah, Bhagavatam is a postgraduate study of the Bhagavad Gita, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that it's superior in the sense that, it's better, It's like the message of the Bhagavatam is in the Bhagavad Gita, but it's given in a very concise form. Because like you said, you have 700 verses, and then in Bhagavatam you have 18,000.
Yes.
So the same concepts are explained in the Bhagavad Gita. I will say in certain way to understand Bhagavad Gita is more difficult than to understand Bhagavatam, because everything is very concise, very, very condensed. What my experience was that when I studied Bhagavatam, then many concepts from the Bhagavad Gita became so much clearer. Because everything was developed in the Bhagavatam, many concepts. So you can, Bhagavad Gita is the words of Krishna, so it's absolutely perfect. And they are the essence of, the most confidential knowledge is being given by Krishna in chapters 9, chapter 10,
Yes.
about loving exchanges with the Lord. So that's there. But obviously in Bhagavad Gita, you don't hear so much about the loving exchanges between Krishna and the dances of Vrindavan, So you can say that, yeah, the Bhagavatam is a postgraduate study of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, we have a few more minutes. Ananda Vardhana Prabhu.
In the beginning, the second verse it says Mahamune.
Okay, I was waiting for that one. That's a perennial question. It always comes every year. So why is Vyasadeva calling himself Mahamuni Krita, right? Is that the question?
Yes, kind of, yes, because it appears like as if somebody else is speaking, or like why would he mention his name in the sense?
Yeah, it is, we've been investigating that a lot of the time.
From different, I spoke with Banu Swami
about it, and I was just today hearing the, 1 second.
But basically the point is that Vyasadeva is the Lord himself. So he's glorifying himself. He has the right to do that, So that's one answer. Then Banu Swami, he gave me another answer in terms of the Sanskrit, but I don't remember. But that's it. This verse is spoken by Vyasadeva, and he's referring himself as Mahamuni because, and he also has the right to do that himself because that glorification is not of himself, it's of the Bhagavatam also, which is Krishna, like that. Prema Manjari, I need to go really right now. I was wondering if the question, you can write it down or the comment and we can address it in the next class, next week, because I need to go. So for next week, please, we'll complete chapter 1, which will move much faster from now on, and then we'll prepare chapter 2. We won't complete chapter 2, but we'll start chapter 2 on next weekend. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki, Kalpataruscha, Kripasidhivya, Patitanam Pavanevya Vaishnavevya Namo Namah. Hari Bo.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.